Who goes there? It's your boy. Today, I want to take a little time to chew a bit of gum and talk a little bit about some solo RPGs I have. I'm not sure I'm going to go into too much depth of each one. I have got a little bit of a time limit on this video as I've got some food in the oven. But I wanted to take a bit of a chance between my work to talk a little bit about them, because I think solo RPGs are pretty fun. So I'm going to choose some just normal extra white, because I thought that was the bubblegum one, but I accidentally picked up the wrong one. So I'm going to take a couple of pieces of this, have a bit of a chew. I think I can hear some ducks outside. Oh. Minty, minty, minty. Alright. So, I'm just going to get straight into things today, because I don't have time to spare. So we're going to be talking about these solo RPGs. Now I do have a few more, but I've not played them, so I've not got them out. I'm thinking of doing like some videos where I read through books for the first time, maybe talk a little bit about them, try them out. There are two here that I guess three here I'd really like to do for a video, but we'll see. As in playing them, but I need to get the right setup sorted. So let's start off. I'm going to begin by just kind of naming the different books, and then we'll get into a little bit on each. So the first we've got up is Be Like a Crow. The cards that I've used for my solitaire videos are actually part of this solo RPG. You can get them because the game uses cards rather than dice. Similarly, there is the book Apothecaria, which is a lot of fun. In fact, you can see I've got some notes in here. Oh, where is it? There we go. Which I'll talk about. And finally, we've got the last two. One's called The Wretched, and the other one is The Assassin. They both use the Wretched and Alone system, which, much like most of these games, they're all actually very, very similar, and by which I mean they all use cards predominantly, a deck of cards as their system of choice for randomness, and the game in each of these is really about getting prompts and then making a story with it. So these two are made with the same system by the same company, and you actually, I don't know if it's still up, but you can get the template for the Wretched and Alone system on itchy.io. I think that's how you say it right, can't remember, but you can use that to make your own system as well. It is, from what I know, to be like copyright free, well, to a degree. Don't quote me on that, do not take your legal advice from me, but yeah, they're the four different systems I'm going to have a little chat about today. So I think I will start with these two. The other two are my favourite, just to play. So The Wretched and The Assassin. So both of these, much like the others, use cards as a way of like determining randomness. The Wretched we'll start with, because a lot of what I'm going to say about this has some kind of influences in The Assassin. So The Wretched, the setting of it is that you, it's basically like the plot of Alien, but imagining it's like the very end of the film. So you have been aboard a ship that's been going from point A to point B, and during this, an alien creature has gone on board. You manage to get on the escape pod, or the kind of escape vessel, and flee from the ship. All the rest of the crew died, and now you're at like an impulse engine. The engines are mostly destroyed, just basically floating through space. In fact, I don't even think the engines are working, but you find out that you are maybe not quite so alone, and that perhaps the alien has followed you. So, the way in which this works is you are trying to get home, and in order to do that, you have to, I believe it is, you have to be able to contact home and then survive a number of days, because each day there's more of a chance that something bad will happen. In short, depending on the cards that you get. So, the aces, I think, are the good ones. Like, that's like, oh, you fixed a system or something. But if you get a king, once you've got all 4 kings, the alien has made it inside and you die. So, let's take a little look. There's a bit of the front art. Wretched and Alone and the Wretched. Some safety door stuff. Talks about some of the themes. Overwhelming odds and almost certain death. Oh, this particular game is also done with a block tower as well. So you don't have to do it this way, but what you'll need to play this is a 6-sided dice, basically like a Jenga tower, and 10 tokens of some kind. Oh, I thought this was with cards. Oh, it is. So a deck of cards with no jokers, 6-sided die, etc. Now, the way in which this game is set up is that you're meant to kind of record it, and the best way to do it would be like a video or an audio log, like speaking into a microphone. So, you've got to think of it like, by the end of the game, it's like an audio log that someone might find, depending if you survive or not. Every day, you'll have to draw a certain amount of cards depending on the number you get when you roll a dice, and you have to do those tasks, and that's part of the story. It's like, in your log you might talk about, today there was some knocking from this closet and I went over to investigate and it turned out that the door had jammed. Or it might be finding a particular weapon somewhere in the ship, etc. Now, if at any point there is a catastrophic systems failure, the game is over, which takes the form of the block tower. So, the way in which it works is that you roll a dice. That's the kind of, you'll be drawing cards to determine the task, but also you've got to move that number of blocks on the tower. So every day that goes by makes it more and more difficult to survive. So that's the kind of like impending doom element. So you'll draw the cards from the deck, and then what you'll do is you'll refer to the card the cards plural that you flipped over, and depending on the suit, that will determine which kind of system it is referring to, or like what kind of element of the game. So heart is systems, a diamond is structures, club is the crew, and the spade is the creature. So I'm going to give you one example here. So say you turned over, you rolled the dice and you got a 3, you move through 3 blocks on the tower, you refer back to the deck of cards, and you take 3 face down cards, and one by one, as you begin the day, you turn them over, and the first one you get is, let's just say, 6 of spades. So you flip that over, and it says this: you find yourself muttering a short phrase over and over again, like a catechism. What is it? Pull from the tower. So after you get that, you immediately pull from the tower again. If you move on to your logging phase, so let's just say you did the other tasks, you come to the second phase, catchphrase of the day, which is where you make your log, and you might take that hint and go, what is the catchphrase? And it might be, I will survive, I will survive, I will survive, and like that builds into the story, right? Now, that's basically how it works. Each of these suits obviously has a king. Now, if you've drawn 3 kings, and let's say I drew the king, the 4th king on this particular draw, then I would read the king passage, and that would be the end of the game, because if you draw all 4 kings, there's some big fail. Basically, it's the second way you can lose the game. So that's the wretched, and your hope is to survive being found. I know that was a bit of a short example. Maybe I'll play it just to give an example at some point, but for right now, that's basically it. It's a horror survival game in space, basically Alien with a Jenga tower. Maybe that wouldn't be good for ASMR actually, but we'll see. The second is the Assassin, very much like the Wretched. Very much like the Wretched, it's done with cards, and rather than like just being the case of a day, this particular game is divided into hours of the day, and you are playing an assassin that has been sent somewhere to kill someone, and in short, part of the game itself is to find information about the job that you've been sent on, but also like the memories and history of this character. So you're basically creating a backstory for this assassin. So very much like the other one, you'll find yourself drawing those cards and referring to a table. And this one uses a tower as well, actually. So let's just give an example here. First off, I'll just mention what the individual things are. So the different suits. Hearts is the job, so the job that you're on. Clubs is the past, so a little bit about the character. Diamonds is about the city you're in. And spades is the company. So let's say that you got a 4 of clubs. What would you do? Well, you'd start to journal about this prompt, which is you had loved ones once, people in your life who cared about and who cared for you in return. They're long gone now. Their memory haunts you. Why has it been so long since you heard their voices? Pull from the tower. And so, very much like the other game, there's a failure if you topple the tower, or if you draw 4 kings, the game is over. And you just kind of build that into a story. So these are like story prompt games, as are the others, but they're a little bit different. So that's what this is about. There are no like character sheets in this. It's entirely like generate your own story. And that's where I'm going to come on to Be Like a Crow. So Be Like a Crow is very unlike that in that there is a character sheet. In this game you basically play a crow. Now there are different types of crow that you can be, and different settings for the game, and they have more online. So you basically start with a young crow, and the game, as you progress, developing a story with prompts like the other, but you gain skills and you gain levels. So you go from being basically like a young crow to being an adolescent and then an older. I can't remember the exact terminology for it, but the story that you generate is given by the prompts. You're given basically like a reference at the beginning some investigating around, found like a found family, and there was a whole bunch of stories, and I've got a video up on my other YouTube channel, but yeah, so it really is a solo adventure, much more in like an actual solo RPG, in the sense that there's a character sheet and there's skills, and very much like the other games you have cards and they determine like the difficulty. So basically the way in which it works is, say there's a task that you have to do that a prompt tells you about, you'll take the card from the deck, and that is the card you've got to beat. That's like the DC. The second card you draw is like your roll, and then you add your skill on top of that. So for example, let's see if I can get a skill up. Where's the sheet? Where is the sheet? I know it's somewhere in here. I know you're hiding somewhere. Where's the sheet? Page 70, 70, 70, 70, 70, page 70, where are you? Oh, I can't, there it is. Hopefully you saw that alright. So let's say I had 2 points in fly and I had to make a fly check. I draw the first card, that's how difficult it is, and I get a 7. I turn the next card over and get a 6. Now, without a bonus, I would have failed. But if I have 2 in fly, that increases it to an 8. So I beat the check, so I succeed. And the outcome of that might be that I gain something. Maybe I succeed at a job, or whatever it might be. So in this game you use a map, and every time you move to another adjacent X in the map, you have to make a roll, or like make a check to see if you've to see what event happens in that X. And with that you just start to generate the story, and each of them, each of the different settings has different events and things that can happen. So some of the different settings are urban grow, which is like just contemporary, the contemporary world. Cyber grow, which is like cyberpunk future. Gothic grow, which is like sort of like, well, like a gothic adventure. Fantasy grow, which is like, as you can imagine, like fantasy. And then Clockwork Crow, which is like steampunk, and finally Ravens of the Tower, which is very specifically the Tower of London, which is a lot of fun. So let's have a little look at what that might mean. So when you pick a setting, you gain some specific like additional skills and abilities depending on your setting, and you get more as you get older. So you start as a fledgling crow, then after a certain amount of objectives have been met, you've succeeded a number of objectives, you become a juvenile, then after more objectives become an adult, and then finally an old crow. And for example, here's something as an ability for the gothic crow setting. Once you become a juvenile, you get an ability called a dark deal. You align yourself with a vampire bat who bestows you with several of their magical abilities. Add 1 tick, or like and tick is meant to represent like ticking boxes. So the more ticks you have, the more skilled you are in something. Add 1 tick to befriend, scare and preen checks. In combat on your turn, you forsake your attack, or you can forsake your attack and call on them. They will instantly appear and give you aid, granting you 2 attacks on subsequent rounds. They will vanish into thin air at the end of combat. Additionally, as a juvenile, you may pick any other 2 skills to add an extra tick to. So that's just an example. Get special abilities. It's very, very RPG like. This is one of my favourite solo RPGs, I've got to say, because it's not overly complicated in its system, but it still has that really like character progression sense, whilst also making it entirely about story prompts that you create. There's no XP. It's all about do you succeed at your objectives. So you create objectives as you play as well, and there's rules for that. But I don't have time to go into that entirely. So I do want to do a game of this on the channel, so I'm probably going to do that, and I'll go into more. Maybe I'll do a video explaining the rules and then start playing the game. And finally on the list for today is Apothecaria. Now this is an amazing game. If you like Kiki's Delivery Service or The Little Witch, stuff like that, you'll love this. This is a game where you play as the village's new witch. The old one has gone missing, and the game itself is twofold. First is helping the villagers with their ailments, and the second is finding out what happened to the old witch and developing a story from there. So what this game basically is every day, you can divide up the time as you see fit, but I like to do it day by day. Every day you can roll or pull a card to represent someone who's come in for an illness, and it will tell you the severity of it and stuff. And slowly as you play the game more, the ailments become more difficult. And depending on the season, you might need to go and get special ingredients. So the morning begins with you deducing what the illness is, and then over the course of a day, you go out into the wilds, collect ingredients and bring them back, and then eventually create a potion to fix it. Now there is a time constraint, so depending on the illness, you only have a certain amount of day points you can spend. So moving from one location to another wastes time, and so does harvesting an ingredient. So making a check to search for an ingredient, and certain ingredients are more rare to find, and very much what was happening with Be Like a Crow. You're drawing cards to try and defeat a DC to try and get the ingredients and then come back and make it. But all the while there are events that could happen. So for example, there's one where you go to the mountains and you might roll for an event in a location and then find out you get chased by a mountain goat. You've got to succeed at such and such to escape it, and if you fail, then the goat hits you and you lose 2 of your reagents, and the reagents are basically the things that you use to make potions. But let's assume that you do succeed at getting the needed ingredients. You come back to town and then you get to describe making the potions, so each of the ingredients will have this is how you would use it, and there's no rolling for that. You just eventually create a recipe book for all these potions, and it's a lot of fun. And the other good thing about it is you can store reagents as well. So let's say you went out and got an extra of something else because you had a bit of extra time, well, the next day you still have it, so you might not need to go and collect that. So it's a really interesting game where you're on the one hand trying to develop the story about the town, the town's people, the mythical creatures that live around, but also at the same time you are making the potions and stuff, and trying to deal with all that mechanical element. So that's another fun one that I would love to do. It works much better as just a strictly journaling game, so actually writing in a journal rather than doing it like this, but we'll give it a go, I think, because I really like it. And just as an example, here are some of the things that I've got. So you can you get payment from the townsfolk every time you help their which helps me by is always able to go and obtain a reagent called coffee cap, and that's one it can always get for free. So every day I can get at least one of those if I need to. So basically that means I'll never have to go and search for them. And so you go through each of them. So here's a little look at that. So that's week 1 of spring. And then there's a whole bunch of writing here. I like to write a lot. Week 2. And I really go into depth with it. So maybe what I could do is play the game and maybe read out the story a little bit for it. And here we go. So the best way to determine the time in the day is to draw a circle, and if it says the ailment has like 8 slots, you would divide it into 8 segments, and every time you do something you colour in a segment. It's just an easy way of keeping track of the time. And as you play, certain events will come up where it talks about the witch, and you find a clue that connects to the witch, and you go, what does that mean? So in the end, you're doing exactly the same thing. The events are prompts that cause you to create a story, and over the course of the game, you'll have recurring NPCs. Some of them even say when you roll to see who the person is that's coming in with an injury, it might be someone that you already know coming back in, and so you get these recurring stories, or recurring NPCs that you grow to grow quite fond of. But it's not just the townsfolk. You might have a fairy or a centaur that comes through. Yeah, it's a really fun little fantasy game, and the book is just stunning. I think it just looks beautiful. And there's all the different coloured pages at the different locations. There's actually an expansion for it, but there's different coloured places for different locations, and as time goes on, you might be able to gain certain abilities or skills that lets you go to new locations, and some things will require, Milkstone, for example, requires you to have a wand or a friendly giant to collect it, and some of them are like that. And the numbers here that you see are all, my finger's covering them, numbers over here determine how difficult it is to find them. So you'll see that in the mountains it is a 4. So if I was trying to collect the Goldrake guano in the mountains, I would have to get at least a 4 in the deck of cards. So yeah, but if you look underneath it, it says -2 in spring, +4 in winter. So basically that DC goes up or down depending on the season it's in. So if it's in spring, I'd only need a 2 or more to get it, but in winter I'd need to get a 4 or more. So yeah, there you go. This is a really fun game. So yeah, I'd love to do that on here. Maybe I'll give it a go and try and plan it out. But I want a good visual setup for it. But I think we can work something out. With this one in particular, you just need cards. This one is a little bit more difficult because you need the cards, and you also need the map and the character sheet, which is doable. I'd probably keep a physical journal and have a sheet on there. Maybe I'll buy a journal for it or something, and then we do a screen capture for a map, because I've done it before. So yeah, that's what we'll do, something on that, because I love these 2 games. The Assassin and the Wretched I'd love to do. I forgot that the Assassin had the tower as well. There is a way to do it without it, but it takes away half the mechanics of the game, but it is possible to do. So I'll look into it, see if we can do that without the tower. But even so, RPG, something that's fun. Like they are all very fun to play. Check out one of these games, and I really, really do recommend Be Like a Crow by Cricket UK. Apothecaria is really good as well, and the Wretched is fantastic. I've only got a little experience with the Assassin. I've never actually played the game itself. I've only ever read the book, but the other three, yes. All very different experiences. So that is going to be me for this video. Just thought I'd have a little chat about them. Yeah, hopefully we'll get a chance to play them. Thank you very much for listening in. If you're still awake, have a good night, day, evening, afternoon, morning, whatever it is, wherever you are. And if you're asleep, have a pleasant rest. And that will bring us to the end. Very, very unfortunately, I know, it's very sad. But until next time, take care. See you in the next one, in whatever video it